Today we will be building a real-life Hobbit Hole. This adventure will take us anywhere from handcrafting 144 foam bricks to accidentally making a functioning guillotine. So sit back, relax, and join us as we bring Tolkien's words to life. Whether you're familiar with The Lord of the Rings or Bilbo's quest that started it all, one thing I'm sure you're familiar with is the Hobbit Hole. Today, my fellow Middle-earth enthusiasts and I have decided to go on our very own unexpected journey and bring this iconic visual to life. Thankfully, Tolkien gave us a perfect blueprint to follow in the opening lines of The Hobbit.
In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Not a dirty, nasty, wet hole, but one with a perfectly round door, like a porthole painted green, with a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort.
The first step to any good project is planning.
We started by making some concept drawings of what we wanted to create and how we would do it. In addition, we also looked into the logistics of materials, transportation, and ease of assembly. But the most important planning document that we made was a 2-scale draft of our Hobbit Hole. This page was our key reference. Any measurement, angle, or curve, we came back to this sheet. And our to-do list shows every step that needs to be taken in order to bring our Hobbit Hole to life. After figuring out all that we needed, it was time for a quick, or not so quick, trip to Home Depot. Like all the watch-throughs of The Lord of the Rings, it took much longer than expected.
And now that we had gotten that over with, we were ready to start work on our door.
The first thing we'll need to do is cut down our boards to a rough length found using this graph. Each 1x4 will be cut down to the length of its innermost side, and we'll worry about rounding it off from there.
After priming, we were ready to start assembling the boards into our not yet circular face. We used 2 backing boards stretching across the width of the door to hold it all together, in addition to several small connectors around the edges to help contradict warping. Then, using a measured length of string, we drew out exactly where our circular cut ought to be. Getting this cut, however, as we were soon to find out, would not be that simple.
Now typically, to get this kind of cut, you would need either a highly specialized tool or to very meticulously use a jigsaw, making sure not to lose the curve. We, however, are limited to this circular saw, which despite its name, is not intended for cutting circles. But I have an idea.
We may not have had the right tool, but what we did have was a spare board, questionable judgment, and a dream. Using a board cut to the radius of the circle and some true MacGyvering, we made an only somewhat terrifying rig which would allow the circular saw to travel in a perfect arc.
Now, if it isn't obvious enough already, this is not the most ideal way of doing this, nor could I imagine it's the way that the hobbits did it. So please take caution if you too desire a lore-accurate Hobbit Hole.
But even this technique, as well as it worked, left some rough edges behind. Thus, cue the sanding montage.
After sanding, it's time to get our door freshly painted.
There's no mark on that door. It was painted a week ago.
We ended up deciding on this nice earthy green color, and then layered it with a blue-based black wash.
This is where the true magic happens. Without it, the door would have just been one solid color, without any visible texture. The wash, which is just a few drops of dark paint and water, settles in the grain of the wood, giving the piece realism and depth. We also wanted to pay homage to the knock at the door that started it all in The Hobbit, with Gandalf's mark etched into the bottom of our door. And last, but certainly not least, the doorknob. With that in place, our door was finished, and it was time to turn our attention to the face that would surround it.
The face piece will be constructed largely of plywood, with boards on both the front and the back for decoration and support. We'll start by getting it all cut and primed.
With our face pieces prepped, it was time to get them painted to match the exterior walls of the Hobbit Hole. It was here, however, that we were to face our first big setback, color theory. But more on that in a minute. For now, just try your best to ignore the school bus yellow failed attempt sitting in front of you. In the meantime, we went ahead and cut out our windows and door frame using both the custom circle rig of death from earlier, as well as a smaller, even more terrifying version for the windows. But back to our color dilemma. We wanted our Hobbit Hole to feel real, like you could reach out and touch it, because, spoiler alert, you can. But the paint colors we had gotten were way too bright and highly saturated, which is great if you're the sidekick to a crime-fighting mass vigilante.
Holy trickery, you're right.
But not so much for our bag end. To remedy this, we picked up some custom hues which were much more earthy and muted. We also did a dark wash over each piece to add depth. This really helped our Hobbit Hole to look less like something out of a children's book and more like something you might truly stumble upon in the rolling hills of the Shire.
Now that we have our exterior walls done, it's time to add in the dark wooden trim that gives our Hobbit Hole a warm and inviting feel. After measuring to see how long and wide we wanted our vertical trim to be, we drew out our desired curves and cut them with a jigsaw. We then sanded, primed, and painted the pieces, as well as added a heavy black wash to make the wood grain pop. Now our trim is ready to be attached. These pieces mirror the location of support boards on the back, so that the 3 face boards can just slide right into one another for easy assembly. And once we had drawn out our curve, we rounded off the top using the jigsaw. With our face starting to take shape, it's time to add in our 144 handmade foam bricks. Yes, we counted. These are just small rectangles of pink foam that have been weathered, painted, and layered with a black wash to bring out the texture. Now, since there are so many of these, we won't be putting them all on at once, but rather one section at a time as we make them.
Now that we've gotten our vertical trim in place, we're ready to go ahead and design and cut the plywood accents that will go up underneath our overhang.
After priming, painting, and a quick black wash, they were ready to go. Once we had gotten those pieces put in place, and accidentally made a functioning guillotine, no, inventing medieval weaponry was not on the to-do list, but here we are. It was time to tackle one of our most exciting obstacles. This, of course, being the arch. As to continue with our theme of realism, we wanted our arch to be an actual steam-bent strip of plywood, but after a very monotonous and time-consuming failed attempt, we were forced to use something other than wood.
But now he has a mind of metal.
We ended up using a thin sheet of galvanized steel. This was much easier than attempting to bend the wood and looked just about the same after it was painted.
Now that we have our arch in place, it's time to make this truly look like a Hobbit Hole. Doing so, of course, by setting it into a grassy hill. However, we don't have a grassy hill. So, as to make up for our lack of a hill, we attached an inclined strip of turf to small risers on the back of the arch, giving a mound-like effect. One night of epic metal grinding and not quite so epic grass trimming later, and we are on our way to the finishing touches. It's often the finest details that really send a project over the line from good to great. And with this final mushroom, I present to you our very own bag end.
Seeing Tolkien's writing come to life before our eyes has been such a great experience. And now that we have a Hobbit Hole built, there's so much more we want to do with it, like decorate it for Christmas. The possibilities are truly endless.
If Tolkien's stories teach us anything, it's that ordinary people can make extraordinary things, and that with just a little bit of imagination, you can turn even a quiet backyard into your very own Middle-earth. And I think that's exactly what these books and films encourage us to do. Make the real world a little bit more fantastical, one unexpected journey at a time.